Is the stream coming in any better now, Lewis? On my end, it looks really clear. On the streamed version on my side. Had a really nice reaction at that from the non-farm payroll. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just take a look at some of my high time frames here. Weekly still looking good, bullish. Daily, nothing too concrete right now. If we retrace this whole previous day, that's going to be pretty bullish. So if we can get above 42 quarter here, that would be beautiful. Let's see, the 4 hours saying anything. So 4 hour had an interesting RVI pattern off the low. So we had this push down, and then it just kind of, it pushed up, so it was bullish off 37.20. But now you can see it's like flattened out. It's kind of weird. Haven't really seen that before, where it's just completely flat like that. So overall, that was a bullish indication off the low on the 4 hour. And we are trying to hold the 40 down here. We came all the way down to 30 on RVI. So it's looking bearish. If you look at RVI here, as we were pushing up from back in February, we pushed up and we were holding up here above the 60. And then just as we started breaking down halfway through February, the 4 hour is now having a lot of trouble breaking above 60. And so now we're down in this 60 to 30 range, or 60 to 20 range. So it's fairly bearish. But if we can hold this now, hold the 40 area and now push up, if we can get above the 60 on RVI, that would be a good sign. Especially because we have the bullish divergence off 37.20. So let's see what the 60 minute is doing here. Again, off of that low, let's see, off of the pullback. So we made the low at 37.20, and there's beautiful divergence off that from the previous major swing. But you can see that now on the pullback that we made in the Globex. In fact, last night, when I posted that trade, I was going for, I guess it was around 5 points, and then I tried to get 9 points. I didn't realize I hadn't been watching the charts very much, and earlier in Globex, we had a confluence of bullish divergence off that 37.30 area, and since then, you can see this was like hourly, 30-minute, 10-minute, everything right off that pullback there. It bounced, and now we're way up like almost 100 points. So I do have to run for a few minutes. Got to go to the bathroom and do a few things. Let me just bring up the 30-minute. So right now on the 60-minute looks very bullish. There's no sign of exhaustion as we push here. So I'm going to really just be looking now for signs of exhaustion in this push. And again, you can see here's the 30-minute. We pushed up to 37.30. We came down on RVI. So there was a lot of confluence to go long right around, what's that, like 5:30 Pacific time last night. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the computer at that time. And sure enough, we're getting a huge push. So guys, if we can start working together and maybe someone can monitor some of these high time frames and stuff, if I don't catch it, maybe someone else can notice that we're getting 30-minute, 60-minute, maybe even 4-hour divergence, and notify everybody, and we can all jump in and get these huge pushes. But I'll be right back. Alrighty. So as I was saying, let me jump back to the chat here. So I guess you couldn't see the chart I was sharing earlier when I was talking about the confluence. So let me bring it up here. Last night, I wasn't watching the charts, but around 5:30 we got confluence on a lot of these mid-intermediate time frames for a long. I think it was 4 hour, 1 hour. Now this is the 30-minute. And then if you look at the 10-minute as well, off of that little pullback after we bounced off 37.20, you got divergence on the 10-minute. So I was saying that as a group here, if we're all going to be trading together, if any one of us starts to see the confluence of these 30-minute, 60-minute, 10-minute, all that lining up, if we could notify each other, we could jump in on these moves, because as you can see here, if I zoom in, and this was the low here at 37.30 where we got the multiple time frame divergence, and from that point we're now up almost 100 points. So if we can just catch one of these a month, we would make a lot of money. The problem is I can't just stare at the screens all day. So as far as right now, I was saying that as we push up here on the 30-minute, there were no signs of exhaustion at all up here. So still got plenty more room. Doesn't mean we can't pull back or reverse, but I don't see anything too clear for that right now. Same thing, the 10-minute is just pushing up here from the previous RVI high. So you can see that there's really no divergence there either. And don't see too many signs of reversal. So far this push is looking pretty good. I'm gonna move this back over here. And as we get closer to the open here, I will go ahead and focus on these short time frames. Try to get this shake in here. So on the short time frame, you can see had a little bit of an exhaustion pattern right off the KP. And still looks good, still beautiful. You could be getting in here long, at least down at 10. Now that we're up at 1250, maybe you don't want to take that risk, but looks like from that 38.10 got a decent continuation pattern, kind of like last night when I posted. We've got this nice continuation pattern coming up. So if the bulls are strong, though, we'll continue to push it. We've only got about 3 points out of it so far. And let's see, let's go down. Trying to work out a new way to display these charts and everything. So that you can see what I'm seeing. Try to get this 3-minute up. So you can see the 3-minute, the 1-minute, the 512 all have exhaustion off that high. The little continuation pattern on the 512 and the 1-minute was not showing on the 3-minute, so I should have probably said that. So it doesn't look like we were going to get any more than 3 points there. Again, the 3-minute didn't have any long signal there, so it looks like we're going to come into the open here and we're going to be looking for a potential bounce off one of the levels here of this leg. So really what I'd prefer to see is the 3 minute showing some divergence to agree with the 1 minute and the 512 before I pull the trigger. And can look back here. Got some decent reactions in the market right here. So ideally, we should not be getting much lower than the 50% of the previous day, which is 81.50. So now we are getting a bit of 3 minute, but we still have 2.5 minutes on that bar. And we're not necessarily at a nice support level just yet. Could argue you have 38.04 here. You have the smaller leg, which is that low to this high. So that 04 now, as we come into the open, if we do push up, you can see absolutely beautiful confluence on these extensions here. I mean, this was not planned in advance. I just threw the fib up for the whole leg and the fib for this minor leg here. And we're getting beautiful confluence with the CP from yesterday right around 38.22. And then we have 38.30.50. So I'll go ahead and mark these on here. And let me make this a different color. I can make this kind of like a light blue. Might be too bright. Deep sky blue. And we'll go ahead and make that the default. So this 04 might end up holding here. The idea though is if we do roll over, it's not really worth it to hold it for a loss because we do have some decent levels down below to look at. And this actually might be the curve that starts breaking down. So if you did take 04 long, I would not be holding it for a loss here. It'd be really nice if they came all the way back to 81.50 and bounced. But they might not. The bulls might be strong enough to pull this higher here. And this would probably, yeah, the 25 is down here. So very aggressive. The bulls are very aggressive if they hold this level at 04. But I can see bearish divergence on the 512, which is why I said that this might continue to push down here. So getting close to the open. We do have the 3 short time frames showing a bit of divergence, but I also think that we have more relevant levels like down at 37.97 and then down back at 37.81 to 82 here if the bulls are not strong enough to continue to push from 04 here. I really should have pulled the trigger on my end here because we were already up now almost 3 points from the entry, and we got the entry to the tick so far, but I did not actually get in. So again, on the upside, looking for 38.30, and then we have the CP, which is also I mark here. And then you can see the 100% extension is up here around the previous daily high, which is what we want to get above. If the bulls are going to be strong today, they need to break above 42.25 and hold above it, and then we'll worry about other levels once we get there. But that would be the ideal case for the bulls. If they can't hold 50% here of the previous day, if we break down, it might start to look a little more bearish. We'll have to reconsider the intermediate time frames here. But right now, the 10-minute, no signs of reversal. 30-minute, no signs of reversal. 60-minute, no signs of reversal. And let me see, the 4-hour. You could make the case that there is, but you also, I just want to point this out to everybody. On the 4-hour here, we got kind of a strange pattern. I don't really recall the last time the RVI did something like this. So you can see that we pushed down to 37.20 and there was divergence. And then for the last 4 bars, RVI was literally just flat. It's almost like a plateau there. I don't know. It's not something I'm familiar with. And now we're pushing up, and you can see that if we break the high, which we're doing right now, then we won't have divergence from here, but from this previous high we will. So it's a little tricky on the 4-hour. I almost don't want to rely on that because of that signal. The daily, again, I said if we can start to break up above the previous daily high here, it's basically a bullish engulfing candle of all this bearishness. And it'll be nice. And it looks like they did end up pushing down as I was talking about this. So like I said, if you were long from 04, 04.50, just get out if it comes back to you. And looks like we just opened. I didn't realize the time went by that quickly. that was definitely a short there, if with very tight risk from 03. I wasn't looking at the chart here, so. Something tells me this is not low enough, but we'll see. It was the 61.8 retracement of that small leg. Go ahead and get rid of that. So overall, did not quite get to the 61.8 extension of this small push, this small leg down. I do think that it makes more sense to come down to 97, but it doesn't always have to make sense. Could try that, see if we can push down here. So just mitigate that risk. We're short from 02 here. We'd like to get to 97 to get that first fill, because that's where I expect us to bounce from. And if we continue down, I have some runners here to capitalize on that. But I really do expect 97 here. So we will see. There we go. Just got to get, went right to my contract, did not fill. And that was kind of lame. Might want to just take it here. There we go. So there's our first 5 points with 2 contracts of the morning. And what I'd like to see here is if we can't hold 37.97, I might even just go ahead and trail this. So I'm going to trail that behind that high, and we're going to push down here, and I'd like to get 93, which would be 4 points or 9 points from my entry. And also makes sense that we should be retracing down there. It doesn't seem to be anything stopping it, at least to 93. So we should be able to get another 9 points here. And then worst comes to worst, we'll get stopped out with a few points on those runners. like I said, that 93 area, it makes sense we're going to go right through it because there's not much there unless we get to 91.75. And that's where you could potentially see the bulls come in. And I'm going to go ahead and take the contract off. So now the final runner, ideally would like to see all the way back to 81, but I'm going to trail this stop really, really tight. And so we'll look for like 84 on that final contract. But I will be trying to trail this. We're at plus 13 points, so it doesn't make sense to give away 10 points here. But we are right in the area where, well, maybe not. We've now broken the area where I would expect it to bounce. So now really the only thing left is at least down to 82. So as this pushes, I would expect at least to 82, unless just we get randomly just a big bull push. You did get a little bit of 512 divergence there, saying we're going to go down. So we got a 1.5 there. There's 3 points. So I'm going to trail this all the way down. So if we get stopped out, we'll get stopped out at plus 10 points. Otherwise, we're going to get this 84, which is whatever, 18 points. And I might just take it at 85 here. I took it off at 85 because we're now at the 50% retracement. So I'm happy with that trade. I'm going to leave it like that. And if we look at, so overall that was a $2,000 trade, or a little over 2,000, 2,400. And now, like I said, I think there might be a reaction here at 81.50 or 82. You see the previous highs here right around 82.50. So there's really not much else in the way there. If you look back in the market, there's nothing stopping it. So 81.50 should be achieved here. And the reason I take the contract off a little bit early is because I've seen things so many times come so close and then reverse, and you miss out on, 15, 16 points when you're holding for 17 or 18, and there's no point to hold out for 1 point. No point to hold out for 1 point. I'd rather have the money in my pocket at that point. So far not bad. That's really the only trade you need for today. It's Friday. We got in to over $2,000 on that first trade. And here we are. Look at that, bouncing directly off 81.50. I must be a wizard here, huh? It just made sense. Right between the 50 and 61.8, the previous major resistance for that big correction right when the NFP news came out. So it just makes sense to come back and revisit it. Now we do have we're getting real low on the 1. The 3 minute now has pretty glaring divergence off 81.50. You could see the 512 divergence there. You could see the 1 minute. Look at this major swing all the way down on RVI. Last time we were there, we were almost 30 points below it. So huge push up on price, huge push down on RVI on the 1 minute. See the same thing on the 3 minute. And the same thing on the 10 minute. In fact, the 10 minute, if I pull it up here, you can see how we pushed from this low all the way up. And now on the RVI, we went from here all the way down. And now we're finding support somewhere in this 40 area, which is a good case for the bulls if this holds from an RVI perspective. Because now we're starting to hold the 40 area, which might indicate that we're going to now continue the bull trend. So we'll continue to monitor that. And you can see now this level marked around 90 is where we have some previous resistance in the market, or previous support, which could be resistance now. So we might be holding around 37.90 to continue pushing down. It might only come up to 89.25 because that's the swing low. But I'm just going to be patient now. I pretty much made my money for pretty much for the week, just that one trade. So I'm going to lighten my load and just start looking for some nice base hits here. And it might be a really early morning. We're only 13 minutes into the open. So we're coming into right where the 61.8 retracement is for this whole leg up. And the tough part about this now is, yeah, we're getting a lot of bullish divergence, but it can continue to kind of push here. So we got to be kind of selective of what area we're going to want to finally pull the trigger on. This area does make sense for a bounce, so I don't want to confuse anyone. I said 81.50 is where I wanted the market to come to, and now we are getting a reaction, so this very well could be the bounce area. You can see on the 1 minute you had the divergence off that low, and you also, I believe, on the 512, well, nothing really on the 512, but the 3 minute is divergence, and the 10 minute I showed you is divergence. So this could be it, and if we do start to push, maybe we can look for an entry to get in on a pullback. But first we have to get through 90.50, that blue line on my 1 minute chart. I'm just going to look and see what we could expect on the downside if we break down here. Let me copy this line over here so we can see it on both charts. It just so happens my 200 moving average is right there at that 90 level. So just another thing to keep in mind here. But as we break down, we really want to look at the retracement of this whole leg. And 50% would make sense where you have a lot of this previous price action right around 74-ish. So that might be the next area we head down to. And then 70, you've got some really nice resistance in the market there that really hasn't been tested. We chopped through it, but we haven't cleanly come back to test 70. So you're going to want to watch that. I don't necessarily like this one where, like you see on the 3 minute, we're way extended down here. It continues to build. I don't necessarily like to pull the trigger. I would rather see the 3 minute give me a nice pattern, a nice classical divergence or a hidden or an exotic divergence. rather than just seeing this just super overextended. So we'll wait. Okay, so they're breaking right through that 90 quarter. So that could be it. Really nice support right off 81.50 again. But on that pullback, I didn't get an indication to go long at all. There's no divergence, so sometimes that's just how it is with the markets. As we push up here now, assuming that we do hold here, we do have the retracement levels just to kind of give us a guide to see important areas where other things are happening with price action. And so far, that's a 1 minute divergence off the 38 retracement. So we came to the 38 retracement to the tick, one tick off, and now we're pulling back with a 1 minute divergence. So they're making it a little tricky here this morning. Well, I guess not. Makes sense because the 38 is a highly reactive area, especially with all the previous price action right here. And you can see the body of the 1 minute is lining up with the body of our previous resistance. So all makes sense. Let's see if we can get another trade on. There was no confluence there to take it short, so I'm not going to take a trade there. Or I should say there was no multi-time frame divergence confluence. There was the 38 and the previous price action. So I know there's a lot of people that just trade price action, and that was a very good area. So as we break down, we now have this leg that's telling us the 27 extension is right around 69.50. And then the 61.8 is basically the low of this leg. So 69.50 would make sense if we start to push here. And this 81.50 might end up acting as a resistance here as we push up. Now, I will probably go ahead and take a short if I get a signal, but so far there's no signal on the 512. But 69.50 would make sense if we can break VWAP here at 75. And it looks like we are, so remember now we're coming up to 50% of the whole leg up. Got 512 divergence, but I prefer to see a classical divergence there. Did anyone end up getting in with me up at the top there? Had some decent signals. It was worth trying. I actually think because my 3 minute and my 10 minute all show divergence, that this could potentially be where we push from, because we retraced the whole leg up by 50%. So you can see they held VWAP multiple times here. And now, if you look back, we're finding resistance right at the previous support. So they really have to break through there. And maybe this isn't it. Maybe it's going to continue here. So again, 69.50. Coming right down to it now. We've got some previous resistance there as well, 69.75. So all in all, not too bad. So much for that 50% retrace. Did not hold. Sometimes on these pushes down, you get some really glaring 512 and 1 minute divergence. And you did have it there, but I was busy talking. That 71.50 was decent. So it looks like we're going to give this whole leg back in a matter of a few minutes here. And you can see we came down to 69.50, the 27 extension to the tick, and bounced like 3 points. So not too surprising. Got in a little late there. I was going to try that short, and I hesitated from 69.50 because we did get some nice 512 divergence there as we push off the previous support area. Again, I'm trying to be very selective after that trade because it's Friday and I don't want to be giving it all back now. So the short from 69.50, and I didn't announce it beforehand, it was working decently. You got just in front of a 5 point exit. It might come all the way back, but it was a decent signal off a decent level. So really the only thing we have below us now is really the 61.8 retracement, but There's not quite a lot lining up there, so it should probably break through it and at least test the low here around 56.50, which happens to be the 61.8 retracement of this first leg of the push down. So I don't see anything until we get down here around 57. And then you can really look at this whole thing. Usually I like to look at from the pullback. 61 of the whole thing here is right at that 57, which happens to be the 61.8 extension. So again, a lot is there. You also have a KP from yesterday. You could try this short here with just a little bit of risk to potentially get this move down. Looks like they might push it here and stop me out. Yeah. We can try it one more time if it comes up to the 73/4 area where we have VWAP and the 200 moving average. If there is this divergence on the 512, and ideally we'd like to see the 1 minute come up to meet this previous high on RVI. But you really don't have divergence anymore, so it's no longer the most ideal trade here. So got to be really quick with this stuff if we're looking at short time frames. The story is going to change a lot. Still have the potential for it to make a decent divergence now that the 1 minute is getting close to showing the same signal. So far we don't have multiple time frames, which is really the most important thing. You just have some potential 512 signals. So I'm going to be patient. And I'm just going to give it maybe another half hour. Like I said, we grabbed whatever that was, like, I don't know, 40 points off that first trade. So there's that. You can see that 200 period and the VWAP with the 512 divergence got you a little over 5 points so far, but there was no 1 minute indication. I really want to see at least the 1 minute when we're in these protracted moves. And then the 3 minute is really the icing on the cake for a big move. Starting to get 1 minute divergence around here, but still no 3 minute. and so it might just continue pushing. We got some nice bullish continuation off 69 here, so we can go ahead and throw a fib up. We came right up to the 27. We've got a little bit more to the 61. And it looks like I guess that's going to be the final reversal area here to continue up. We retraced almost the entire leg. And you can see 100% extension of this specific leg is going to bring us right back up to that 90 quarter area that we were watching all morning basically. Nice bullish pattern there from 77 here. Let's see. Yeah, so we have decent confluence right up around that 90 quarter area again, just using the fib extensions on these two smaller legs. And if you look at the whole leg, yeah, just about 89 is the 27 extension of the whole push so far. So lots of stuff lining up right in that area. Gonna want to watch here. This is how I'm probably going to be running the trade room starting next week. I might spend a little less time explaining, but because I already got most of my points for the day, I'm just kind of relaxing here. So if anyone has any constructive criticism for me, whether it's the charts or if I'm talking too much or not talking enough, just let me know. Again, I want to watch this whole leg now if we are to retrace a bit. All right, well, definitely a beautiful area to bounce from, that 75. So 788, 789, and like I said, 90 quarter here seem to have a lot of stuff that lining up there. So that would be our first stop if you somehow got long back here, and here we are. So 90 quarter, and you can see if you dial back a little bit that this is 30-minute divergence long from that pullback level. 60-minute is very unclear, so at least on the 30-minute and the 10-minute we have some really nice divergence off that pullback low of 37.60. We are 30 points up now, so it is what it is, but we are right in that. Remember, the other two extensions were right here around 92. We've got a decent reaction here off that area. Shoot. forgot to go put my garbage out, so I gotta go run and bring it to the other side of the street. I'll be right back. All right, so it looks like that 92 area was it. You can see that first extension I drew was to 91.50 here. So beautiful target if you happen to be long. Got a reaction off this little previous resistance area. Got in very late there. This might actually just stop me out. So if it comes back, I'm just going to get out. I got in way too late there. Yeah, got out of break even. Should have been long there from 86. There really wasn't a bullish divergence off 86.75 on the pullback here. So I expect it to come down a little lower, or at least give us a bullish signal on the 512 here. So as expected, we did come back down. We're right back at that area. You can see 81.50 here is now previous resistance. So there's no signal yet. Everything looks normal from a divergence perspective, so we're not pulling the trigger on that level because of that. So that helped us stay out of that level. And we're right back to VWAP. Need to have a nice bullish pattern here. Otherwise, I'm not going to try to enter. We could try this level right here. Yeah, sorry guys. Looks like it's a big sell-off. I think that's really going to be it. I don't want to whittle away at all my winnings today. I'm basically going to wait for 3 minute, 1 minute, and 5:12 to all line up before I pull the trigger. These were all, pretty much all the trades I took for the last few trades have been aggressive. Basically only 5:12 signals. And so I'm going to wait for the stars to align for a good trade, and that'll be it for me. There was really no strong indication that we were going to have such a strong pullback here. And sometimes that's just how it goes. Can redraw this. So it was exactly 61.8 of the whole push down, but there was no strong signal there at all. So I guess just another confirmation of how strong the fib levels are. Can get rid of the smaller leg fib here. So now we're pretty much almost fully retraced it. And this might continue down, just might, if that pattern holds. And it didn't hold though. And this is why I say the 512 is a very it's a double-edged sword. You get some really good signals, really good entries, but you can get chopped to shit with it. So that's why you really want to wait for your 1 minute and your 3 minute to confirm. That's what happened last night. That's what happened when I got in my entry this morning when I took, what was it, 8150 short. We had multiple times showing the same signal. So there's no reason to trade tick by tick and try to get in the market all day long. You just got to make one good trade, like the first trade we took this morning, and that's all you need. Also, why I reduced my size after getting such a nice trade is now I'm mitigating my risk by cutting my size in half. So those stop outs were much less significant than they would have been if I was in full size. It looks like for whatever reason I'm still short on the trade because it didn't close for me. So I'm going to close that out. I don't know how that happened. But it was good because I was way more in the green. So there you had your 1 minute and your 512 to go long off 65, but I was managing that other trade, and so I wasn't paying attention to the charts. And there's a short signal, but really not on other time frames. Just want to reiterate that that long from 56, when we had multiple time frame divergence on the 10 minute and the 30 minute and below, we got 56. So we got over 50 points. So when you have that 10 minute lining up and then pretty much the 30 minute, you get these 50 plus pushes. And you can see that 512 short signal I called, it only worked for like 3 points on the pullback. And so that's why the 512s are dangerous unless you're scalping for a point or two at a time and managing your risk really tightly. So instead of driving yourself nuts scalping, just wait for your multiple time frames to line up and take your entry. A lot of times your 3 minute chart is going to show you all of the rotations throughout the day. And today it just so happens that it's not really showing them. But from my experience, a lot of days, all of these little rotations in the market, you're going to see them with divergence on the 3 minute chart. But today they all look normal. There's no divergences. So some days they work amazing. Some days you don't see them as often. But they worked great for the short this morning and then the short at the beginning of the open. The fact that we can't hold above 8150 is telling me that we could potentially continue to push lower today. You can see that we held the 20 area that I was talking about for the last few days in my morning forecast. And we tried to push up above the 50% of the previous day at 8150. And then we pulled back here, and now it's having trouble staying above 8150. So not necessarily a very bullish sign. It doesn't mean we can't hold here. We still have, let's see, as far as retracements go, remember 61 is the low of the whole leg down at 56. And then we do potentially have the 4550 area, which is a 27% extension, but it's also this previous resistance and then previous support. So 45 to 44 could still be defended by the bulls, and then we push higher. But so far we're not holding above 8150, so I think that's one of the toughest things about trading, is that you basically have to continue to flip your bias when new things occur, and they're occurring second by second. So you have to be really nimble and be ready to change your bias at any minute. Still dancing around at the 50% retracement of this whole leg up. Now that we have this leg here, if we potentially push below the low of this small leg, we now have some extensions to look at. And again, that 48, I think I said, what, 45 to 44? 48 is the extension of this small leg. And then you can look at the whole leg itself. And you do get a bit of confluence at 55 area. Yeah, 57. Got a lot of confluence right over here. There is 3 minute, 1 minute, 512 right in this area off 63. So I just wasn't looking at my chart. I think that 64 area would have been a good long because of the confluence I'm seeing. My bet on that was a little late. Some really great ranges today. We're pushing like 10 points in a few seconds. We're almost up 20 points and it's been like 2 minutes. So that was a great confluence signal. I just was not paying attention to my 3 minute there. 64 would have been a beautiful entry. And you know, this could turn into a range day here where we just keep bouncing around, say, 58 to 3,800. And so far, we're not getting any conviction on either direction. Every time we push up, pushes all the way back down to retrace the leg almost 100%. This has the potential now to push down. Unfortunately, we're kind of far from where I would like to enter. And there's the push. Yeah, so it's very, very choppy today. we've got a great signal to go long at 64. My bad on that. And then this short, I was again just a little late on it. But you can see how we're just kind of coiling up here on the charts. We're coming up to 1 hour into the after the open, so I might end up just kind of calling it a day. And there's your 1 minute 512 bullish divergence off the low, but it's now up 5 points from that low. Pretty amazing ranges today. So that's all she wrote for that leg. And we do have the 56 here. Let's see if we can catch this down. It's a very quick trade. And if they can't do it, we're just going to get out. So I think that's going to be it for me today. I don't want to whittle away at my winners. And so if anyone is still interested in joining the trade room next week, I think Day Trade Like a Pro uploaded some information on it. We're going to be doing a weekly study session, going over some of the best trades of the week, and just talking about the setups. And so I hope to see some of you there. And again, thank you guys for being here for the course. You guys were a great group. Have a great weekend.